Hey, appreciate you stopping in and talking some Jets ball with me today. In this one, CJ Uzomah, some pretty eye-opening comments about our quarterback one, and then just some roster roundup talk. Thumbs up is always appreciated, but either way, go Jets. So CJ Uzomah was asked by a reporter. The reporter started a question with, so if Zach Wilson can take a Joe Burrow-like year two leap, and before the reporter could even finish the question, CJ butted in and was like, no. It's not an if, it's a when. This year he's going to take a Joe Burrow-like leap. It's going to happen according to CJ Uzomah. And I think, you and me, we've both been watching football a long time, right? In sports in general, we know what a non-answer is. We know when a guy doesn't want to commit to something or make a bold statement. We know what they say. CJ Uzomah could have let the reporter finish their question and then said, everybody's different. Zach and Joe are different players, but Zach's been doing everything right, working hard, putting his head down, getting better every day. Right? That would mean nothing. We know that. But to not even let the reporter finish and say, no, this is going to happen. And furthermore, CJ Uzomah respects Joe Burrow far too much, a quarterback who he got to a Super Bowl with, to just throw his name out there. If CJ Uzomah is up in Seattle catching passes from Geno Smith or Drew Lock because he's saying it about either of them, come on. He believes this. And we also see CJ just immersing himself in this, I don't know, for lack of a better word, a bromance, right, with Zach Wilson and the dudes. I really like to see that. And he's up in the mountains with them on vacation. They're getting to know each other, building chemistry, building camaraderie, throwing the football around. And then we see CJ Uzomah rocking the Time Person of the Year shirt with Zach Wilson. For me, like the MILF jokes, it's kind of played out by now, whatever. But even that, and just, he's my quarterback rocking that. CJ Uzomah just doesn't strike me as a guy who's phony. He's a good teammate. He's a rah-rah guy. He's always going to be positive, but he just doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to put BS out there if he doesn't believe in Zach Wilson, and he clearly does. And you know who else I think believes in Zach Wilson? I made this point yesterday talking about Quan Alexander. I got some pushback on it. The front office of this team, I really do feel like the aggression that they've shown, right, trading up in the draft to come up and get an offensive weapon, when Joe Douglas is typically a guy who trades back, accumulates assets. The interest in veterans like Larry Ogunjobi, Riley Reif, Quan Alexander on these one-year rentals tells me that they feel like they can compete this year, and the only way that they could believe that is if they believe that Zach Wilson is ready to go out there and play some legitimate grown-up NFL quarterback in year two. I think they believe that. I do. And people have pushed back and said, well, we're not one player away, or we're a rebuilding team. We're still a year away. We're a young team. And I completely disagree. We can't know that. We can't know that we're a year away, because if Zach Wilson can take now the Joe Burrow leap, okay, that's a big standard, because Joe Burrow went out there and not even the playoff success, but just statistically completing almost 70% of his passes, that would be a monumental leap for Zach Wilson. But if Zach Wilson can make 75% of that leap, which would be playing average quarterback, yeah, this roster is ready to compete right now. This whole idea that we're, too young and too inexperienced to compete is just not true. Look at the offensive side of the ball. Look at the offensive line. We know who Laken Tomlinson is, who George Fant is, who Connor McGovern is. Becton's a third-year player. We saw what he can do as a rookie. We know who Corey Davis is. Elijah Moore and Michael Carter showed us that they can be playmakers. We know who Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzomah are. Okay, so on offense, even if Garrett Wilson is wide receiver 3 and Breece Hall is running back 2 behind Michael Carter and Jeremy Ruckert's tight end 3, still can score some points. We got proven talent on that side of the football. Then if you look at the defensive side of the ball, we know who Quinnen Williams and JFM are. I think Quinnen pops, but even if he doesn't, he's a really good player. We know who Jacob Martin is, Vinny Curry. Even if we're getting 80% of what Carl Lawson used to be back from the Achilles, it's a damn good edge rusher. CJ Mosley, we know we're getting out of him. DJ Reed, Jordan Whitehead, guys in their prime, proven track records. And Michael Carter already in the conversation for one of the best slot corners in the league after what he did as a rookie. So if you look at the young guys over there, even if Jermaine Johnson is just a rotational edge, fine. Only guy we're plugging in who's got to be like a full-time 90+% of the snaps guy right away is Sauce Gardner. And even if by some travesty he's not ready to start, Bryce Hall is a starting cornerback in this league. So this is a roster, yes, with a lot of young players. We also got a lot of guys right in their prime, and we know what they can do. So the only The biggest variables are quarterback and head coach. And on quarterback, there's some truth to what people say in the statistical side of Zach Wilson. If you look at the last 20 years of rookie quarterbacks, there are almost no quarterbacks, maybe one or two, who have had statistically as poor of a season as Zach Wilson and have gone on to be what we would consider a franchise quarterback. Like Josh Allen is one of the big exceptions, but he's the exception, not the rule. But I would also say, even if Zach Wilson has to make an unprecedented leap, I think Zach Wilson has had an unprecedented roster turnaround around him. Even as just a football fan, not even as a Jets fan, can you recall a young quarterback going from year 1 to year 2 with this much change and improvement around him? I mean, 2 Pro Bowl talents at offensive line, 3 new tight ends, another running back, another wide receiver, 2 wide receivers coming back from injury. And then with the defensive side of the ball, the changes there. And retaining his offensive coordinator, year 2 of the OC, year 2 of the head coach. It's huge. Zach Wilson, he got the bleep end of the stick last year, man. His quarterback coach passed away before the season even starts. Nobody could catch a pass. He's got GVR blocking for him. He's got Mekhi Becton going down right away week 1. And number 2's got to be better. We all saw the screen passes skipping in the dirt. But the Jets have done everything possible to ensure that if he's that guy, we're going to see it this year. And CJ Uzomah believes that we will. And I believe the Jets front office and brass, with the moves they've made, are showing us that they believe that too. Now, another note on the roster, there's something I kind of disagree with philosophically for the Jets defensive staff. We know now that JFM confirmed today he's going to be playing a mostly defensive end in the base and then kick inside on passing downs, third down, which in a vacuum that makes sense for his skill set. He's at 285 pounds. He does a good job setting the edge against the run, and then he can use his athleticism against guards, centers on passing downs. And most Jets fans, I brought up Ndamukong Suh yesterday, which I don't think that's happening, but the retort was not even about Suh, but about our defensive line. Oh, our defensive line's too stacked. We have no room for him. Our defensive ends are stacked. Yes, in JFM, Lawson, JJ, Jacob Martin, Vinny Curry, Bryce Huff, like Michael Clemens. Michael Clemens is probably inactive week 1 if we're relatively healthy, and Vinny Curry and Bryce Huff might be on the roster bubble. 2 pretty darn good football players. Solly Thomas can play some defensive end too. But defensive interior, if we consider JFM an edge, defensive interior is not stacked. Okay, if we're counting JFM as a defensive end, Quinnen Williams is our only above average defensive tackle. Sheldon Rankins was so bad against the run last year, you cannot call him average. You know how I feel about Nathan Shepard, penalty machine. And you got unproven guys like Jonathan Marshall. If they want to kick Solly Thomas inside. So Q's the only really established guy in the defensive interior. So for me, it would bode well for the defensive line as a whole if JFM slid inside almost full time next to Quinnen. And then that accomplishes 2 things. Number 1, it reduces the snaps of 2 underperforming players in Rankins and Shepard. Sheldon Rankins played over 60% of the snaps on his team last year. That just can't happen again. And Nathan Shepard was on the field a third of the time. They're just not good enough to be on the field that often, in my opinion, on a team that should be competitive. So that's number 1. It reduces the snaps for those guys. Then it opens up snaps for guys on the defensive edge. Jermaine Johnson, Jacob Martin. They should be on the field more than Sheldon Rankins and Nathan Shepard. So I think sliding JFM inside would allow us to get the 4 best, most talented players on the defensive front more often. But hey, I'm assuming that Coach Saleh knows a little bit more about defense than I do. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there, but that was my instant takeaway when JFM did confirm that. That's it for me. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll talk ball soon.